Tonight, I'm teaching you how to fill those 5 slots in your portfolio, the 5 types of stocks that represent the new diversification, not just by sector, but also by style and strategy, so that if executed correctly, you'll always own something that works and holds your interest, keeps you in the game, even when it feels so excruciating that you don't want to continue playing, while at the same time making sure that you have some positions which will go much higher when times are good. I've already told you that you want to own some gold as insurance, simply because it tends to go up when almost every other kind of stock is going down. So what's next? You always want to own something heretical, something speculative. I know, even as speculation is the dirtiest word in the financial business. Except, of course, here in Cramerica, where it's part of investing orthodoxy. Not only is it okay, I'm giving you my blessing, for you to own those tempting, risky, broken-seeming stocks that trade, yes, in the single digits, I'm regarding it as a downright necessity, as long as you follow my rules and speculate wisely and correctly. I know that this philosophy is the exact opposite of everything you've ever been told by all the usual purveyors, the graybeards of investing wisdom. These people who tell you to focus on stocks in the big indices like the Dow Jones Industrial Average or, the classic S&P blue chips, because it's filled with companies that we think are always going to do well. Funny how being blue chip didn't help GM or Citigroup or AIG, formerly some of the bluest of the blues, when they were annihilated or nearly annihilated during the financial crisis. They say to stick with the S&P 500 simply because the professionals who give you this advice presume that regular individual investors, home gamers like you, are, yes, harsh judgment, they think you're brain dead. They think you're incapable of analyzing the prospects of publicly traded companies on your own. We know from our calls and lightning round that just isn't true. But they don't think you can pick your own stocks. I'm not even sure they think you can pick your own nose. So they assume that you'll do less damage to your wealth if you only play around in big household names. Stay away from tiny speculative stocks that, in many cases, you've probably never heard of. That's the smug, conventional wisdom on Wall Street and among the intelligentsia. But look, I'm a grizzled veteran. As a grizzled veteran who's been in the stock game for more than 30 years, I'm telling you, totally bogus. I have the right to say that. I have been at it, and I've done okay in this business. These pros who dismiss speculation are completely ignoring what I call the human element, the emotional component of investing. The fact is, a lot of people end up investing poorly because they aren't engaged. They find the whole process boring, hands off. They don't want to stay on top of what they own. They don't want to care about their money enough. If you neglect your stocks, if you don't have the motivation to do the homework, then you probably won't do too well. Either because buying stocks without homework is no better than gambling, or, actually it's worse. Gambling's more fun. And that's where speculation comes in. Just like you need some exposure to gold as insurance against inflation and economic chaos, you also need something speculative in your portfolio as a tonic against one of the worst enemies of capital appreciation, boredom. That's why we try to entertain on the show. High-risk, high-reward speculative stocks are interesting. They're compelling. They keep you engaged. There's an undeniable mystique to owning something that trades in the single digits. They allow you to stay focused. They keep your head in the game. You always hear the speculation is the height of your responsibility, right? But I say without a portfolio without speculation, without a long shot, is a portfolio that won't capture your fancy. One that you'll board you with your money. And it'll make you anxious to surrender to people who only care about taking your fees. Is there any way they can care as much as you do about your money? No. Now, speculation doesn't just keep you interested. When you do it wisely, with the right rules and discipline, these stocks can generate enormous gains, truly massive returns that are almost unheard of in the stocks of larger, more well-known or more well-liked companies that are deemed safe. Some of my biggest wins in my investing career came from speculation. But when done wrong, swimming in under $10 waters can also lead to truly gut-wrenching losses. How do you identify the winners and avoid the losers? Okay, there are 2 kinds of stocks that trade in single-digit territory. The hated, broken stocks of troubled companies that have been abandoned and left for dead by the big institutional money managers, and the relatively unknown stocks of undiscovered companies. In both cases, you can get an enormous edge, the kind that's virtually impossible to have in the heavily researched, intensely followed stocks of household names, because so many of the big boys won't touch anything that trades under $5. A lot of them have rules saying they're not allowed to. That means you could be benefiting from classic mispricing created by overly pessimistic money managers, rule-bound and unable to step down to some interesting gems here. The large institutions, the big safe mutual funds, they don't want to own single-digit stocks. They think these stocks are too dangerous. They're afraid that they'll be questioned about why they own this junk, about why they risk money foolishly when there are so many safer stocks out there. These money managers fear the downside of stocks that look broken. So when the fundamentals at one of these companies starts to turn, you can buy their stocks at terrific prices because so many of the big boys won't go near them until they climb higher. And that's exactly what happened with Ford Motor when it was pushed down to $4 and change in 2009, courtesy of the financial crisis, the Great Recession. Or how about Bank of America at $3, also at the generational bottom in March of 2009? Or Sallie Mae, our speculative stock of the year at $6 in June of 2009. All of these stocks were supposed to be trash, dumpster juice. But if you went dumpster diving, you caught doubles or triples in all of them. Deals like these don't come around every day, though. More often, we speculate in stocks of tiny companies that most people have never heard of. And with them, we're not trying to catch a turnaround. We're looking for sectors that seem like they can capture the imagination of the crowd, the next hot fad that will sweep through the Wall Street fashion show. Sometimes, but not always, the fad will actually be backed up by genuine earnings power, which is what we saw with all the little companies that make smartphone components in 2009, the first half of 2010. I recommended these aggressively. I call them the mobile internet tsunami plays. And stocks like Skyworks Solutions, Cirrus Logic, ADC Telecom, named some of the biggest winners. But the smartphone revolution names represent one of the rare cases where the reality far outpaced the hype. These speculative fads usually have the life cycle of a mayfly. So the trick to first always remember to lock in your profits when you have them, so you don't get burned when interest wanes. Second, cut your losses before they become too large when a spec you thought would work isn't panning out. When you speculate, you're not trying to find a stock that you can buy and hold forever. You just want something you think's going higher. And as long as you're disciplined and ring the register, it doesn't matter if that stock comes back down later. It's not a license to own the stocks of companies with bad or deteriorating fundamentals, though. Far from it. That's the essence of irresponsible speculation. Here's the bottom line. You need to own something speculative. That's a key part of the new diversification I'm telling you about. Something that will help you stave off boredom and potentially allow you to rack up some huge gains. Lots of fantastic stocks started as speculations. And just because a stock trades at $3 doesn't mean it's a three-card money. It could be a triple waiting to happen.